I'm with Laurence Garret from the House of Hope here in Bethlehem. Now, Laurence, what is the House of Hope?
The House of Hope is a home for children with severe learning disabilities and for adults with visual impairment, and some also have learning disabilities.
And how many children do you have here staying on the property?
We have about 10 children at the minute, though we're hoping in the very near future that that can be doubled to 20, and a further 10 children coming in every day to receive education and training.
I guess when you have children staying here on site, you have to have fathers and mothers for them as well.
We have what we call house parents who come in on a daily basis from the local area to look after the children when they're not in the school, and to look after them as parents would. But we also rely on foreign volunteers who come, giving 6 months or a year at a time, to look after the children and to care for them practically, but also to share God's love with them in ways that they can understand despite their difficulties with learning.
Do the children develop a good relationship with the house fathers and mothers, and the same thing with the house mothers and house fathers with the children?
Many of the children come from very difficult homes, and it is sad to say that not every family that they come from care for their children. Some do. Some love their children deeply, but not every family does. And to find people who come in and love them and care for them and who respect them and play with them is a real surprise to many of these children, and they grow deep attachments to those who care for them. And it is a joy to see the closeness of the relationship between the house parents and the children.
What sort of religious backgrounds do the children come from?
In Bethlehem, there is a mix of Christian or Orthodox Christians and Muslims, but as soon as you go outside of the Bethlehem area, you struggle to find anybody from a Christian tradition. And so all of the children would normally come from a Muslim family. We have 2 children at the minute who come from a Christian family or a nominal Christian family, and that is unusual for us. The overwhelming majority of our children come from Muslim families, some of whom are strict Muslims and others are less strict, but without exception they tend to be from a Muslim family.
Now, as this is a Christian organization, do the Muslim families really reject what you teach the children, or do they accept it? Are they happy for the children to be here?
The truth is that many of the families, if not all of the families, do not expect their children to learn anything about the God that we follow and the God that we serve and have a relationship with. They think their children will come and it will just go over their heads. They won't understand it. And a surprise when they do come, when the children come to understand that the God that we follow is different. There is something unique and special about the God that we worship. And some families take the children out. Those from a conservative Muslim family will remove their children because of the Christian teaching once they realize that their children are coming to a relationship with God. But most families don't mind, and some ask the questions for themselves. What is the difference? Why do the people who worship this God act differently to their children? Why do they care? Why are they reaching out to us Muslims when we wouldn't do that for their children? And so it makes a real difference.
So you're really building a bridge between the communities, aren't you, out here?
Yes, that is what we want to do. We want to, quite frankly, change communities. We want communities to recognize that their children, no matter what their disability, are valued, are special, have the right to be loved. And we come at that idea because we have experienced God's love for ourselves, and we then show that in practical ways, hoping and praying and working with their families so that they change, so that they care for their own children.
Now, is social welfare as good here as it is in the West?
In the Bethlehem area, there are a number of organizations working with children with learning disabilities. But for the number of children who need the services, there are very few. and all are provided by social welfare or charitable organizations, the majority of which are Christian organizations doing this as a response to God's love. There is not the priority for looking after children from such a background. And as soon as you go outside of the Bethlehem area, you struggle to find organizations working with those children, providing the care and the support that they need.
Are disabled children respected here and treated well in the land, or is there a stigma attached to being a disabled child?
The simple answer is that most children who have a learning disability or mental handicap are stigmatized in the extreme. As I already said, some families deeply love their children and just don't know what to do. But most children are disrespected, are abused, are bullied because of their learning disability or whatever disability it might be. That the families feel ashamed of their children, and it causes big problems within relationships between husbands and wives. When a child is disabled, who is responsible is the question that is asked. Who is to blame for bringing this shame on our family? And that is something that, God willing, we are working with families to change. That it is long, slow work, and it is as we show that these children are valued that others learn the same.
Do some of the families feel that this is judgment from God because they have a disabled child?
That isn't actually something that I've come across, though it wouldn't surprise me to think that some do. Mostly it is looking between families as to which side of the family is to blame, and most oftentimes it is blamed on the wife as bringing disabled children. Even if a man marries many times and each time has a disabled child, it is always the woman's fault, much more than blaming God. But they do not recognize, they do not see that these children have value because of the God that they follow. They do not recognize that the true God of the universe has called these children, no matter what their disability, to be loved.
And why are there so many disabled children here within the Bethlehem area?
But we don't have facts and figures as to just how many there are. Many children are just locked in a room and left to their own devices. Others are put out on the street first thing in the morning and left to run around. They don't have to go to school. They aren't registered on any list that the government holds, so it's hard to get the exact numbers. But one of the questions we ask of every child is, how is your mother related to your father? And many, if not most of the children that we have, their parents are very close relatives, normally first cousins, and the communities they come from are very closed. They don't mix very much because they come from the villages outside of Bethlehem. And this causes for genetic disorders which run through families and get worse over generations.
So it's marrying the family that's actually causing many of the problems?
Simply yes, that there are very relatively small villages and the families have very close ties within the family and don't like to marry outside, and this perpetuates the problem.
Now you have a school here within the House of Hope. Do people actually come from outside as well to be part of the school, as well as having your students living in here in the living here in the building?
We have about 20 children every day who are taught here, and 10 of them would come in on a daily basis. Those who live close by within Bethlehem. But our greatest priority is to reach out to those communities that don't have any resources, where they don't have people showing that their children are cared for, where God's love doesn't reach out. And so we do have children coming in on a daily basis, but we try mostly to reach out to those further afield from Bethlehem.
How is the home funded? Does the government give finance to the home?
To my knowledge, we have never received any funding from the local government or from the state. All of our funding comes from individuals, churches, youth groups, giving small one-off donations or regularly to the work of the home to support the work that is done. and occasionally we get grants from larger organizations to do specific work within the building or within the services that we do.
Now, you've just moved your family over here to Bethlehem. Why did you do that?
It seems a crazy thing to be doing, to move a family from a stable home with close friends and family nearby, good jobs, and to move to a place where there is still trouble on the streets. You still hear gunfire nearby. You don't have the same education facilities. You don't have the same health care. But we sensed a real calling from God. In so many different ways, God spoke to us as a family about the needs of the House of Hope specifically, and to come and to be able to be used by God to make a difference in the organization.
Are there any practical difficulties that are different here than they are into England?
One of the problems that we've just encountered, because I've been here before and spent several years here as a house parent myself, but one of the problems that we've come across as a family, bringing with us 3 very young children, is that the pavements are not designed for prams. That you walk along the pavement and every 10 or 15 meters you have to walk into the road to avoid a car that's parked or a signpost that's put in the middle of the pavement or someone selling things on the street. And that's okay as an individual. You just walk around it. But when you have 3 young children and a pram going up and down the pavement, it makes it difficult just to get to the shops that are a 2-minute walk across the road.
Was it difficult for you to make the choice to come here?
It was a difficult choice because we were giving up a lot to come here. And some people, some dear friends, didn't agree with the decision to come, and that hurt. But because God was so clear in his calling to us, he spoke to us and he spoke to our families about the need to come, and then it was very difficult not to come. Though it was painful, though we gave up a lot, it was impossible to ignore God calling to us. How can we say no to the God who has loved us so much, who has given so much for us? And we are grateful that he did call us so clearly, because things will be difficult here. We know that that will be the case. But having been called, we felt little choice but to come.
Now, you've actually been here before as a house father, haven't you?
Yes, I was here when I finished university. I came to the House of Hope and spent 3 years as a house parent. I was looking after the children on a day-to-day basis and helping them to learn practical skills to look after themselves. And it was a job that I loved. And now I have the privilege of returning here to the House of Hope, not just by myself, but with my family, my wife, who hasn't been here before, and to work together for the benefit of the children here.
Now, did you actually have to prepare to come back here again from England?
We looked at various ways of preparing. My wife is a primary school teacher, and I am a social worker back in England. And we looked at practical things such as learning the language, and found that actually there was little that we could do because of the specific dialect that is spoken here to prepare. And so we had to prepare ourselves, we had to prepare our home for leaving, and many practical matters. But we've actually come, and there is a lot of work to do here, which is not the way we would recommend anybody doing things. We wouldn't recommend anybody to leave their country and go somewhere else without a lot of the preparation, such as learning the language. But sometimes there are practical reasons why that just isn't possible before coming.
And what's your prayer for the children here, for the disabled children here in the land?
Our prayers there are many. There is so much to pray for. But specifically for here at the House of Hope, we value prayer as we look at how we can improve what we do for the children we currently care for, and as we plan for how we can expand the work for the future to reach into more communities, to make a difference to more families in a way that lasts for the lifetime of the child, not just while they're here with us at the House of Hope.
And what's your website for those people who'd like to know more?
If you want to know more, then you can look at our website, which is www.houseofhopemd.org.
Okay, Laurence, thank you very much.
Thank you. It is good to speak to you.